Okay, I think we're probably at a stage now where we can start. If anybody's running late, then they can listen to the recording. Hopefully that'll work. So today we're here to go through direct debits. There is two types of direct debits that you can have. One is where you generate a ABA file and then that is uploaded into your internet banking and processed through that. That's kind of like the most cost-effective option. But yeah, obviously you've got some couple of manual steps to doing that. And then the second one is a fully automated one where somebody can sign up online and it just all kind of happens. So for the very first one, I think most people are familiar with the merchant facility tab inside Salesforce. So we kind of start there. You'll see that I have come in here and enabled direct debit as a payment method. So we've got credit card and direct debit. You'll
You're not
also
sharing your
notice
screen,
that,
Jeff. Sorry.
whoops, oh, thank you for that.
That's all right.
Cool. That I actually had a note to share my screen too. So let me do that. Okay.
While Jeff just talks about that, so we will still have a Q&A at the end of the session, and we also have online manuals for both of these options. So if you just type in direct debits payments to us into Google, you'll have all the manuals. There's also a video on that too. And then one thing I do like to say, I know I said this last time, but if you do like what you see here and you're utilizing the direct debit process, please feel free to go onto the App Exchange and give us a good review. It just really helps us grow, that's all, and improve these features. Thank you. Jeff.
Thanks, David. Okay, so the first one is I'll just recap again on the merchant facility tab within here. You'll notice here that the method of payments that I have is credit card and direct debit. So you can just add direct debit to there if you don't already. This is using our demo sample. So I've got my primary form here as a regular giving one enabled, so it's got recurring payment set up. So direct debits are only applicable for recurring payment methods, whether donations or just normal payments. Okay. So a couple of other things on the merchant facility that you may want to set up. This is particularly for the ABA version. There is a section on the merchant facility which is called direct debit and ACH. These details here will be your bank account because in the ABA files you have your bank account details there. You also select, generally speaking, it's ABA version. For New Zealand, there's a couple of CSV versions, so you can change that and then you can select which bank you are with. Okay, so all of this information is sent through to the ABA file. This is for the manual sort of ABA file process I'm talking about, and we'll go through the automated process as the second one. Something else that you have here is a user identification number. That is a number that your bank will give you. So it's specific to banks. So that's when you set up the facility through them, they'll tell you what your user identification number is. Now, some banks, not all banks, when you generate an ABA file, it's a text-based file, and the very last one will have like a counterbalance. So if you have a whole lot of debits that you're taking out, it will have it like a credit as a counterbalance transaction. So depending on your bank, you may need to tick this or you may not need to tick that. Okay, so that's kind of the setup that we have. So if we go to the checkout form now, so this is from our online side of things. What I'll do here is, I think everybody's seen a lot of this, but what I'll do is just change that to, Mary Smith, for example, put a valid, whoops, might as well just keep everything in again. Mary.smith@mailandnative.com. Just choose an address. Now I can choose, so what you'll see down here is I've only got credit card showing. So remember I said direct debits are only for monthly, or sorry, recurring frequency. I've got monthly. So now my direct debit tab will appear. Our form builder can add or remove some of these things. So Mary check account, and then you put in your VSB and account number, and you go save. The terms and conditions are also on the merchant facility, so you can update those there. You agree that you're not a robot, and you press submit. Now what that will do, as per everything else with payments to us, it comes into a payment transaction. You'll see that there's a number of transactions here. This is still currently the process of confirmation status, and you'll see that that's gone all the way through. Now the key thing for this one here is this is just a request for somebody to sign up for direct debit, so it hasn't actually submitted them for transacting. So that's why you'll see here that banked payment is no, and you'll also see down further here that there's a thing that says direct debit setup. Okay, I think we all know about it, creating contacts and things like that inside Salesforce. I'm going to go straight to the direct debit, the recurring payment screen. This will be of a record type direct debit as opposed to credit card. You'll see the record type down the bottom. So that means that the information that is shown here is now more about direct debits rather than credit card type of things. So on here you can see the bank and the bank account name and the status. What you'll notice for this one here is this one comes in here at awaiting account verification status. Okay, so for direct debits, when you sign up and get an agreement with your bank, make sure you check with your bank to see what you need to get. So, perhaps there's a husband and wife going through a troubled time and one signs up the other one for automatic direct debits. It's not like credit cards where it actually is able to go through and verify things at this stage. So the agreements your bank will have is maybe they need to still sign a form. Maybe you need to get, a second confirmation through an alternate method. Whatever it is, you need to work with your bank and things like that. So what we have done behind the scenes is we set up a workflow that as you're setting this up, you need to change to basically send some details back to that donor or payer that they need to complete. So under setup, I'm going to email alerts. And what I'm looking for here is an email alert that is against the recurring payment object. So this is, if I do Control F, direct. So send notification of, no, that's not it. Send email new direct verification instructions. So if I click into that email alert, I can see the alert is linked to an email template. So this is new direct debit. And then I can go into the setup here, and that will have the instructions that we are expecting people to do. So it's got dear first name, thank you for registering for direct debit. You need to put whatever that is in here. Sometimes there might be an attachment that you also need to add. So work with your bank on that and then modify that email template, and that would have gone out automatically to that person signing up. Once they come back and you've been able to verify them, you then change the status back to active. And go save. So that person is a brand new person signed up that says, hey, I want to have my direct debit payments taken out. What it does is it puts the next payment date basically being the day that they sign up. So as soon as you approve them, then their direct debit will get ready for processing. What happens is we have an overnight processor that runs called the recurring payment processor. This normally wakes up at 1 o'clock in the morning. We're not going to wait until 1 o'clock the next morning, and only do this when you're in a sandbox or a test account. Don't press this button in your live production unless you absolutely know what you're doing. But what that is doing for me here is running the recurring payment processor, but running it right now. And what we'll find here is when I go to the payment transaction tab, I'll see, and just wait a couple of seconds. Okay, I might just go back here, check something. That might just take a couple of minutes for that to actually appear there. So what I'm expecting here is a new direct debit entry to appear. Might just go, that's right. Let me just go check a couple of things. Okay, that probably just going to take a couple of minutes. So what we'll do is we'll come back to this in a second. Okay.
So I just while we're doing that, if everyone gets a chance, if everyone could just let me know in the messages of who's using the manual direct debit process, it'd be great to hear as well. To see who's using that process and then who's using the more sort of automated direct debit process. Sorry, Jeff, go on.
Yep. Okay. I'll just make sure I've made this person. So I've made them active. The next payment date is today's date. We haven't attempted them before. Okay, that background process is kind of, we're at the mercy of Salesforce. So sometimes they'll run that straight away. Sometimes they'll take their time. I will submit it again just in case. Okay, so what happens is that runs automatically at the beginning of the day. What I'm expecting to see here is a new payment transaction created, but the status is going to be at direct debit start. And we'll have a look at that shortly. From an admin, what we do is when we are ready to process direct debits, we create a new direct debit batch. So using the direct debit batches menu item, I come in here and I go new batch. And you might be running this monthly, weekly, or whatever it is. You then locate your facility. You locate your merchant facility. I just happen to have a lot that are all called the same. So I just need to find the correct one. And enter a payment form. And I go save. So the process here really is, step 1, step 2, step 3, and 4. So step 3, either error or complete. So add to the batch, extract for uploading to internet banking, mark any errors, and then mark everything else as complete. So add to batch, and if this comes up with no records, we'll know why in a second. Okay, that's come up with no records. So let me go back to our friend Mary here. So that payment that I was looking for before has not gone through or hasn't been generated. So next payment date is then, it's active, it's monthly. Yeah, okay. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to cheat a little bit. And we'll add another one here. So I was expecting one transaction to be created at that. I'm just going to close this again. And we'll go add to batch. Now I can see I've got this extracted for ready for the batch because it's at the right status. We go add to batch. Okay, so that was step 1. Now related to this record here, I can see all of the donors or the people we're going to charge as part of this batch. The second step is to go extract for processing. This will generate a ABA file, and for those people that pay suppliers or staff and things like that, it's a similar type of ABA file that you have there. So that has processed and complete, and what that does is it stores the file into the notes and attachments. So you can download this file, and we'll have like a quick look at this. So let's come into here, and you can see it's a text file. Okay, obviously there's nothing you need to do with this, but you might remember that the first row here we had BQL and my account and your account number. So those details were generated from the merchant facility in that direct debit section that we set up right at the beginning. And you might remember that the very last line, sometimes we have a counterbalance line here as well. So that was because of that setup. So there's a couple of things there. If you're really interested, there's some links in our online guides that sort of say to where all the other fields are created. You upload that to your internet banking, which is fantastic. For those people that have worked with direct debits, it doesn't always happen, straight. Well, direct debits don't happen straight away. It can take 3 to as far as 10 or even 11 days over the Christmas type period for the banks to actually say that that has been successful or has not been successful. If it's not successful, you come into the mark error tab here and update those that you want to flag as not successful, or you come through here and you close off the batch as payment complete, and you select all of those. Cool. Really important that you do actually close off the batch to payment complete. Without that, the batch kind of stays open and is not available for processing until basically complete. So if you were doing, say, weekly, it wouldn't, or monthly, sorry, then it won't be available won't be available next month. So if you're missing some transactions in your batch, it might be that you have not closed off the batch. So very important that you close off the batch or mark them as in error. Okay, and what you'll find now is if this was all done correctly, it may not, because I had something here was not being quite generated properly. And what you should see here is this has now been moved on to the 2nd of the 9th. And it's moved on to the 2nd of the 9th for the next payment date because it's monthly, and because it was successful, it wasn't an error, and because I marked it as complete. Cool. That's pretty much the manual ABA way of doing things. David, I know you're kind of managing the questions. Is there anything we want to check in before we move to the automated way?
No, I think I've been answering the questions. I think Josephine's just sent in another, but I think I can answer that. I'll put that in chat. So I think we're all good. Just a reminder though, I'll put a review link in the payments to us. If you do like the manual process or got any suggestions, please let us know. And if you do like it, please give us a review, even if it's about the direct debit manual process itself. Thank you.
Yep. Actually, there was a couple of things I forgot to mention on the batch as well. So let me do that. Okay. With these buttons, you'll see that the add to batch is we've got add to batch, which is kind of single, so you can manually select, and then we've got bulk add to batch. So the bulk ones work better if you've got, say, 1,500 or more individual payments. Or it basically says add everybody that's ready to be added to the batch. And it's also the same for the complete. You have a bulk mark for complete or individual. So what you first will do is mark those individually as error, and then you do the bulk process to basically just close it all off, and you don't have to go through and kind of select them through that checkbox screen. What we also have here is the import return items as well. So that will link into our import file return items if you get that. Check the online documentation, because only a select number of banks have the ability to send you a file back that we can then import and upload. And we've only got a few of those actually predefined in our import process. So the import returns will kind of mark those off that are in error, generally speaking. So that's the bank sends you a file list. Cool. Okay, what I'll do now is move into the fully automated options. For the fully automated options, what we have here is I've got, okay, so we currently support fully automated direct debits through Easy Debit, and we've just released Stripe as well. So what you do here is a couple of things. Is I'm just going to mark this as my primary payment form so that when I click on the link for the entry, it will start using Easy Debit as opposed to the the ABA version. You see here I've enabled direct debits. Probably the key thing for down here is the terms and conditions section. Easy Debit has a requirement, and so does Stripe, that the terms and conditions are updated exactly as per their requirements and your agreement with Easy Debit. So make sure you copy and paste that. The links and all that side of things are in our user guides for Easy Debit setup. So make sure you have that. Cool. You'll see here that I've also got here donation with option of regular giving is my primary one. And what I'm now going to do is go to my online forms. Oh, sorry, the other thing I forgot to mention as well is for Easy Debit is for the online forms, which is related here. I'm just going to open up that form. When you first enable Easy Debit, what you need to do is go to the the payment form you're using for the recurring direct debits sign up, and then you need to, and this is also for the Stripe version as well, and then you go to Payment Form Builder, and you need to do a full reset and save. And what I'll do is I'll show you why you need to do that in a second. And the reason why you need to do this, I've gone to the online form that we've got here. But what it does is there's also I'll just wait for that form to refresh. There's also a requirement when I choose monthly and direct debit. You'll see that there's some specific text that is added to the form, and that's automatically added by the refresh button. Again, this is part of the agreement that you have with Easy Debit or Stripe, so requirements. And you'll also see that the terms and conditions, these came in from the terms and conditions that are entered on the merchant facility. So both of those things are important for the automatic sign up. Okay, what I'm going to do here is Tanya Smith, 529. Now the mobile phone is actually validated. So that has to be valid. And we'll enter in an address, and I'll put 100, and it's going to be monthly. We're going to do direct debit, and Tanya, check. And for testing, if you are using Easy Debit and have got some test credentials, they do have some very specific accounts that you can use and account numbers. And I'll just put those in, and we go there, and I go save. Coming back into Salesforce, I'm going to open up the payment transaction again. And you'll see direct debit confirmation, so it's still signing up for $100. come into here. Now that's all complete almost. I'm just going to go back here and run our batch processor that can take up to 10 minutes to process, and that's going to do the final little bit that I need. Okay, this also initial sign up is, see it's got banked payments no, so this is just to basically set up all of the details that we need again, and hasn't actually charged the person at that stage. You'll see Mary Smith has been created and we've got a reoccurring payment. Now what you can see here is that this time it is active. Okay, so what's happened is during that sign up stage, this time EasyDebit has been able to do all its authentication and things that it needs, and the person has agreed to the terms and conditions. So that has set them up, and you don't have to go through that, manual account waiting and verification that we did for the ABA files for direct debits. It's with EasyDebit and Stripe, it's able to do that straight away. Cool. What you'll see here though is that this has a next payment date still of today's date. This time there's no need for you to create the direct debit batches and things like that. And what will happen is the overnight processor that runs will automatically charge the direct debit and will create that payment. So this has gone through and also assign it to all the right statuses and things like that. Again, what happens with direct debits is they don't settle the same day. It's part of the banking system. It may take 3 to 5 days. But with EasyDebit and Stripe, what will happen is when that payment is finally settled, we will mark it off as an error automatically, or mark it off as matching complete automatically. So there's nothing for you to do. We go back, as I say, as part of the recurring payment process that runs each day in the morning. And what happens is we go back 10 days to sort of see if we've received that payment has been successful or not. Cool. So as you can see, there's like a, typically people that have, certainly if you're doing 2,000 or more transactions a month, it's probably like a no-brainer for EasyDebit or Stripe for the automated direct debits. But time for a couple of questions and answers, but that's pretty much what I was planning on going through today.
Jeff, so if anyone has any direct debit questions, please shout out. But we do have a question here from Josephine on missing payments.
Do you want to do Melanie's first? She did one.
Oh, I didn't see that. Oh, yes. Yep. So Melanie's asked, can automated direct debits be set that they get activated only on a specific day of the month rather than the sign-up date?
So the day of the month, so we don't have the ability at this stage to change the day of the month at the sign-up stage. But what you can do is on the reoccurring payment record, there's a day of the month field, and you could use like a flow or something like that to automatically set it for direct debits, and then that would change it to that day of the month.
Thank you.
So if you always did it on the 15th, and don't forget that if you only ever ran your direct debits on the 15th, but you had some on the 1st and some on the 5th and some on the 12th from the natural sign up, then it's that batch processor that we add to the, we add them all to the batch would add all of those from the 1st, the 5th, and the 13th, all to that processor that you're actually running on the 15th. So there's those two items.
Great. We've got another direct debit question. Automatic payments included in the direct debit license option?
Sorry, the automatic. The automatic direct debit.
Yeah.
For automatic direct debits, you will need a direct debit license option, but similar to credit cards, we charge a per transaction fee for automated direct debits. For the ABA file, we just charge a flat, was it $20 a month? It's just one fee for that option.
Great. And then I think, Josephine, you've asked about testing payments to us when enhanced domains is enabled. So I'm going to send a help link in the chat for everybody on that. That takes you through all the 9 issues so that we know of that. But I believe, oh, sorry.
I was just going to say thank you for the link earlier too about testing in a sandbox. So is the short answer to the question, yes, you can test in a sandbox linking to like a pretend payment form?
For the enhanced domain?
No, just for general. So for example, in preparation for 9.5 coming up, and if I upload 9.5 to a sandbox environment, does it matter if it's a dev environment that only has metadata in it?
No, that should be fine as long as you're doing the testing. What you may want to do is make sure that your merchant facility and payment form are set up similar to production, to your live instance, because they're often two things, two important areas. But it also depends on how much testing you want to do. So if you're doing any testing with regards to receipting, then you'd obviously need to copy the receipts that you have from production into a dev instance. Again, if you're wanting to test more how it creates a contact and matching rules and things like that, then I'd be suggesting to do that in what we call like a partial environment.
Partial, yeah. I've got a partial, but they're using it for something else at the moment, and I'm not allowed to play in there. But I might have to get them.
So yeah, for if you're ever doing like partial or full sandbox refreshes, and you're getting some of the payments to us data and that being copied across as well. Do read our FAQs on that. There's a FAQ section on sandboxes.
Great, thank you.
And yeah, and that'll have that some very key things that you need to do, because what happens is the links that we clicked on the merchant facility go to that form that showed the direct debits and options. When that gets copied across to Sandbox, that's still going to be your production form. So there's a couple of things that you need to do to make it ready for the Sandbox. And there's some also very important notes about recurring payments if they're copied across as well.
Thank you.
And just to follow up on that, the links, you can search for all these things in our manual, but in the messages I have just sent through a link to the FAQ and Sandbox, and I've reshared that link I sent earlier in this session about what you need to do when you're creating a full or partial Sandbox with regards to payment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any more direct debit questions? Otherwise, I think we're used the half hour.
I think Emily's just got one last one. After making an individual direct debits as error or complete, do you have to change the status of the batch to complete too? So after you've marked the individual direct debits off successfully, do you need to then move the batch over to complete? You can answer this. But
no, you just got to make sure that all transactions are marked as either error or as marked as complete. The last one should change the batch status automatically to complete at the end, but it's not necessary. The main thing is all of those individual line items are marked. Every single one is either marked as error or marked as complete. So if you have 10 line items, we expect all 10 of them to be marked complete or have a status of error. That's the main thing.
Great. I think that's it. So if anybody's got any further questions, please feel free to use our support. We've got support@paymentstous.com. Also, if you've got any suggestions about future sessions, please join our Payments to Us group, Salesforce group. That we're always looking for webinar topics to run on. And also, finally, again, just to reiterate, if you could leave us a review, if you haven't left us a review previously, that would be great. It helps us a long way to improving the product and to getting more features that you want out there. So thanks,
Awesome.
everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you
Cheers.
very much.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.